So today's topic is brain-based learning. And before we get right into it, I told you that I'm always at the beginning just going to share a couple of bits of information about Brave Writer and about me. So for those of you who are new, my name is Julie Bogart. I'm the owner and creator of Brave Writer, which is an online writing and language arts program for homeschooling families and non-homeschooling families. We've had a lot of parents with kids in school make use of our materials and program and online classes as well. So that's Brave Writer, and you can find it at bravewriter.com. I also created a year ago a community for homeschooling parents who wanted more coaching, more specific help in making the homeschool that they are conducting match their imaginations. You know how you have that homeschool that lives in your fantasy? Like the one that you just think would be the one that you really would want to be a part of. It's got children happily engaged in learning. You feel creative and inspired. There's all of this good sort of academic energy going on, but it's all natural. It doesn't require this heavy-duty pressure. Like, don't you have that living in your head? And then instead you've got bedlam. You've got kids bouncing around. You've got textbooks. You've got guilt and embarrassment and shame around what the facts are of your homeschool. Yes, exactly, the fantasy that lives in your imagination. Well, what we do in the Homeschool Alliance is I help you bring some of those very healthy fantasy elements into reality. We look at ways to manage the dynamics of your family, your own sort of mental spinning that prevents you from really entering into a lifestyle of learning with your kids. And we've been doing it for a year. Yeah, shame is huge. Shame is at the core. There's this feeling always that you're not living up to what everyone else is doing, or not living up to what the school system would require of you, or that you're simply not qualified to do the thing that you've given your life to doing. So we are changing all that. We are looking at how to live in reality, how to engage your children through their brains that we are going to examine today that actually support the lifestyle that you look forward to having with your kids. And we do this all every day. Each month I pick a reading and I do a series of audio lectures and then private comments for anyone in that community. We can read each other's work, but I help you with your kids. It's not just theoretical. It's not just broadcast to a whole world. It's me in the trenches with you and all the other community members. And together, slowly, with deep investment, we help you get to the homeschool that makes you feel satisfied, that both peace and progress are happening. Okay? So if you want to know more about the Homeschool Alliance, check out CoachJulieBogart.com. And I think I have that for you to look at, so you can take a little screenshot. And in fact, today what's really fun is if you do a screenshot, instead of a heart, we're going to see a little camera float up. So screenshot. Oh, thank you, Juggling Mom. You can share the broadcast by swiping right if you are on iPhone or swiping up if you're on Android. And then you can tap on the little icon that says share. And then you can select whether it's Twitter or you share it with all of your Periscope followers. And I would appreciate it if you would do it. So did anyone do a screenshot? I want to see a screenshot. Leslie, show them how it's done. Someone do a little screenshot. And when you do, you'll see a camera float up. And then you'll see a place where you can tap. And it says, share with your followers on Twitter. And it'll send a little picture of me going like that, okay? Screenshot on iPads, I have no idea. I know how to do it on the iPhone. Okay, so CoachJulieBogart.com. That's how you're going to learn more about the Homeschool Alliance. All right, so let's start. Thanks, Leslie. It didn't work. Press off button and home button. Yes, right. So the one on the iPhone 6, it's the button on the right at the top and the one at the bottom on the front. And you do those at the same time. And then that will cause this little thing to float up that says share with your Twitter followers. So here, I'm going to make a face. And you can screenshot. Ready? Go. There you go. Yay! All right. Some of you got it. Very good. All right. So I don't have PowerPoint because, we're live. So here's what I have. I have doodles. So here is the name of our talk. Oops, I'm one ahead of myself. Hold on. We already saw brain-based learning with the hearts, okay? So there's our first slide. Okay. Second one, human beings are living systems. So we're going to start right there. One of the things about education that we're trying to do with our kids is we're trying to help them understand how to become educated people, how to be lifelong learners. That seems to be the catchphrase in homeschool all the time. And because of that nefarious ghost of public school past who lives on your shoulder and is constantly whispering in your ear, we are sometimes tempted to separate the academics from the rest of life. We treat it like they're two different things. But what brain research is showing is that we are actually living systems. The person that we are has all kinds of components that contribute to the learning experience. And so what we want to do is tap into those and then see the fruit, which is learning that automatically happens. So we looked last time at this big sphere. It was 12 properties of brain-based learning, the research that shows us what it looks like to be a good learner and what that dynamic is. So I'm going to show those of you who haven't seen it. I'm going to show it again. Okay, let's see here. Wait, I'm going to turn it around. I think that will be easier for me. Let's do it this way. Okay, so you can screenshot this right now so that you've got it. And this is the wheel, the 12 component wheel. We did 1 through 6 last time, and this time we're going to do 7 through 12. Okay? So here we go. Did you take a picture? Take pictures. Click, click, click. Got them? Good. Awesome. Okay, here we go. All right, coming back to me now. Great. I am going, yes, this is from the Kane Learning site. And we talked about that site last time. And I will show you the link at the end in case you want to look at it. It's the Kane, C-A-I-N-E, learning.com. Okay? We'll look at the link at the end. So what this wheel talks about are all the properties of brain-based learning, what the research shows. One of the things I like to promote in home education is getting an education, becoming a student of learning, because that's your job. You're helping facilitate that. So instead of only thinking about how to schedule, curriculum choices, who to hang out with, go ahead now and think about educating your kids through learning, studying, learning. Okay? Oh, I love the little hearts. Thank you, whoever is yellow, for tapping away. That's fabulous. And now we've got pink. So anytime I say something that sounds valuable, please do tap. That's very helpful for our future viewers and for me to know what resonates. All right, so we're going to start at number 7. And number 7 says this. I'm going to read it from my little computer because it was too much to handwrite. Learning involves both focused attention and peripheral perception. Okay? So here is the little PowerPoint. Focused attention and peripheral perception. What does that mean? Well, sometimes when we are deep diving into a subject, we can give our full attention to it. But while we're doing that, there's a part of our awareness that is still occurring. I want you to think about the fact that you are extra good at this. This is a mother's mojo, right? You're making dinner and you're also talking to your child at the same time. You are running errands, and in your head, you're planning a birthday party. You are working on, the computer, typing away, and you're still aware when the 2-year-old is misbehaving. Correct? How many of you have that experience? And you know it. You know the feeling of being deeply focused, but also peripherally aware. It's why most mothers don't sleep well, right? Because we'll wake up. We're in a deep sleep, but there's a part of our awareness that is still plugged into the kids. That's right. So here's what it looks like with your kids. We sometimes forget. Good, I'm seeing people say true, yes, thumbs up, exactly. Well, so sometimes our kids are living this life, and we don't believe it. So they might say, I can have my headphones in and do math at the same time. Now, I personally can't do that anymore in my 50s. But when I was 16, I totally could. There's this ability to drop down deep and to have a peripheral awareness. And our kids, because of the multitasking of technology, tend to be really good at it. But there are other ways that this can be encouraged in your family, and I wanted to just share some for you. So one thing we learned early on was that if our kids were in the same room as us on the computer, they benefited from all the family dynamics that were happening that looked like they were oblivious to them. So my oldest son, Noah, who is 28, I have 5 kids, and we homeschooled for 17 years. Noah told me that what he regrets as the oldest child is that he got a computer in his room. And this was when he was a teenager. Partly we did that because we had 5 kids, and we were trying to make it possible for multiple people to be on the computer at the same time. But what ended up happening is that Noah was missing out on family conversations, on the television in the background. And so what happened with our next kids is we didn't do that. We kept the computer in the downstairs family room. And weirdly, as we look back now, while they're on the games, they have memories of inside jokes, conversations, discussions that the family had, all happening around them when they looked like they were in the deep dive of the game. So part of what I'm wanting to encourage is for you to value the peripheral, the drive in the car, the hanging out on the back deck, them being around you. And you are setting sort of an example by how you live your life, and they're actually noticing it. The other peripheral, so this can apply not just to the computer, of course, but like to the art table, to the sewing machine, to the Lego set. You want your kids around where their peripheral vision or their peripheral perception is also benefiting from the family environment. Should they ever be alone? Well, yes, of course. But when we're talking about both kinds of learning, the deep dive and the peripheral perception, putting them in the heart of the family is a really good idea. The other thing to remember is that there are 2 kinds of things going on a field trip or a nature walk or going to the park. Kids are learning all the time, and sometimes we devalue it because we don't see concrete evidence. But your children are creating memories and interconnections inside of themselves while they're doing this other thing. So maybe they're learning how to swing, but they're also at the same time learning about kids who are bullying or what it means to stand in line and take turns. These are valuable also, and we just want to be aware that that's always going on. Okay, the next point. Learning always involves conscious and unconscious processes. Conscious and unconscious processes. So the conscious processes you guys do all the time. You've got the math book, you've got the language arts, you've got whatever your history or science program is, and you're consciously imparting that information. But the hidden, unconscious process is the vibe of the family, the vibe, the feels. What's going on that nobody's talking about that create a feel in your home? Is it a safe place for academic risk? Is it a space where people are gentle and generous? Is it a space where you can challenge authority? These are unconscious processes that contribute to the atmosphere of learning. For example, if you are a very rigid household where everything needs to be neat and the parents are heavily in command and the children must ask permission for everything, then what happens when you ask them to be creative thinkers or to think outside the box academically? Well, the unconscious understanding of the home doesn't support that kind of risk. I like to talk a lot about perfectionism because it comes up so much in homeschools. Parents will tell me that their children are perfectionists, and a lot of times I just have to let them know, actually maybe the parent is the perfectionist. And even if you give verbal permission to take writing risks, it's possible though that the child has unconsciously picked up that you prefer things to be perfect. And so even your words don't quite prove to them that you mean that. They don't know that that's actually true. Do you understand? How many of you have experienced this, where you've told your kids, it's okay, I don't mind if you make spelling errors, just write. And then they still look frozen or blocked. Have you looked back around and thought, well, maybe I communicate on a regular basis that things need to be orderly, things need to be neat. Let's see a show of hands. Who's experienced that in this group? So Sarah, thank you for being honest. She shares that she's experienced that. Who else? Anyone? I will share with you what happened in our family. Oh, here are some coming in. True, they mirror me in many ways, but fortunately, they have a lot of creativity in spite of me. And then Jen says, haha, yeah, sadly. Exactly. We saw a thumbs up there too. Right, exactly. I know that with Noah, his dad and I are both writers. And so even though we gave him a ton of permission, and of course I'm not a neat housekeeper, it wasn't like my house was perfect, but he knew that we were good writers. And so he had internalized that pressure even when we weren't giving it to him, because he just knew we loved good writing. Oh, this is one. I realized that it's an issue from my childhood, and I am experiencing continued growth. Hi there, Christy, Raising Clovers. Thank you for coming in live. Please share with your followers. I'd love to beef up the audience so that I get this message out, because I think it's an important one. So thank you very much for joining. So conscious and unconscious processes are at work anytime that we are learning with our kids and leading them. Thank you for the hearts too, everyone. All right, what's another one? Let's look at the next one. There are two kinds of memory that are part of our learning. We have at least two ways of organizing memory: spatial memory system and a set of systems for rote learning. So we've got spatial memory and rote learning, okay? So interestingly, I did a little research. Oh, thank you, Sarah, for sharing. Thank you, Amy, for sharing with your followers. I really appreciate it. It's so good to have actual interaction. I spend all day alone in my house, and it's wonderful to hear from people. By the way, I have a new mic on. Am I buzzing? Do I sound okay? I meant to ask that at the beginning. I tend to be loud, so I'm trying to modulate myself today. Oh, good. Anyone? I sound great. Awesome. Good, good, good. Okay, we'll keep going. So there are these two kinds of memories. You guys are great. Thank you for contributing and helping me and commenting. And also, hi, Lori. Great to see you here. And FelFam, oh, I'm forgetting your first name, but thank you. As I do these points, if you guys would be willing to type them in, and then that way people who come in late will be caught up. So let's just go over them really quick, okay? So first, human beings are living systems. And then our first point from a 7-point outline, starting at number 7, was focused attention and peripheral perception happen at the same time. And then the next one is that we have conscious and unconscious processes going on when we're learning, okay? So the one we are on now is spatial memory and rote learning. These are systems that we use to retain information and to grow as learners. So I did a little research because I really wanted to understand it. The spatial memory is about the cognitive map. I know I'm using those big words, but they're good words. Cognitive map. What does that mean? It means that in the brain, you're creating a map, a visual structure as a way to trace back your understanding. And the most obvious version of this is the way that we store information spatially. So think about this. How many of you read books on Kindle and you also read books in regular style books? Do you do both? Because I do. Here's something I've discovered. I can never remember where a quote is on Kindle. I don't know where it is. The pages all look the same. I never know how to get back to that page. It like moves around on me. But if I'm reading a book and then like a week later I want to go back and find a passage, my brain is like, I know exactly what I'm looking for. It's sort of halfway down the page. It's next to another word. It's this thickness into the book, right? That's spatial memory. I have a funny story to tell you about it. When our family went to Italy, and I'll share about that another time. I saved up money for years and years and years for us to go to Italy and did not remodel my kitchen as a result. True, even highlighting the passage doesn't help on Kindle. No, it's all about this spatial construct. So we were in Italy, our whole family. And as I've told you before, 3 of my boys are big online gamers. And so their dad had out the map, right? And we were looking for this cathedral that we had heard about on our Sister Wendy DVD extravaganza into art history. And John had the map out, and he's like puzzling over where we are. And instantly, Noah and Liam at the same time pointed and said, it's that way. Like instantly. And John didn't believe him. He's like, there's no way you know where it is. And they're like, yeah, we do. We just looked at the map. It's over there. John is still like, trying to stand in the map to get oriented, to start to navigate. And so he kind of just collapsed in front of the boys and handed them the map. And we just went. Why? Because they play games all day. They totally get spatial memory. That's what's going on in online gaming. They are on maps all the time. They're actually constructing this spatial memory. Yeah, are there some hearts for this? Aren't you relieved that there's some practical application to all that gaming and blasting each other? I was heartened. So that's the kind of thing that they're talking about when they say spatial memory. Rote learning, then, if we're going to look at gaming just as our fun example, is understanding what has to happen in this game to destroy the opponent. And they do that over and over and over, right? They're click, 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 and then they're maneuvering click, 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 click. And what are they doing? They're learning sequences. They're figuring out the rote activities that lead to their end. These are working hand in hand. So while your kids are working, for example, on copy work, let's just take a more academic example. They are using their spatial memory to notice the relationship of the letters that are typed on a page, and they have to translate that into a different spatial structure in their own handwriting. How hard is that? They're holding it in their brains, they're doing this translation process, and they're putting it on a page, right? And the more that they do that, the more they get good at it. This is why we do it. Do you get it? So this is engaging the brain. I'm sharing this with you because we tend to just think about outcome all the freaking time. We're like, did he do XYZ? Did he master these facts? But what we want to notice isn't the facts. It's how is the brain being stimulated? How is it being challenged? How is it expanding and growing as a platform, a stage for what they're going to do in the future and what they're going to do today? Because we're all about living today. You never know if they're going to make it to 18. God help us that they will. But, they don't always. So we want to stay in the present, and we want to learn how to maximize the brain function right now. All the freaking time, says Lori. Yes! All right, good. Oh, a paradigm shift, says Juggling Mom. Yay, good. Keep sharing with your friends, because this is very, very important information. I wish, honestly, here's the thing. What I love about Periscope is that it's not a conference. I've been to so many conventions with my friends. I stopped going because I was tired of just shopping for curriculum. I got tired of being told what system would manage my curriculum. What I was really interested in was how to catalyze learning, how to activate the learner in my child. And so for me, this opportunity to just share with you everything I've been thinking about for the last 20 years, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. I'm so excited about it because it's going to reap such amazing dividends in your families. You're going to hold things differently. You're not going to shame your boys when they get on and are obsessed with gaming. You'll get to sit next to one of them and they'll get to explain it to you. Oh, Kate said I was a talented speaker. Thank you. Lori Garrett, hey, thanks for coming on. I'm glad to see you. All right. So what's the next one out of this 7 through 12? Okay, we're on number 10. I love this one, and you'll see why. Learning is developmental. Screenshots. Everybody screenshot. Click, click, click. There you go. I see a yellow screenshot. Anyone else? Click, click, click. Take a picture. All right. And when you do, you get to share it with Twitter. Does anyone want to do that? All right. Learning is developmental. Nice. I love seeing the cameras. It's so cute. Okay. So anybody who knows me knows that I'm all about natural stages of growth. Thank you, Live Daily and Sarah Kerr, for sharing on Facebook and Twitter. I really, really appreciate it. When I was designing the Brave Writer materials, specifically the Writer's Jungle, I didn't want to do a scope and sequence. It just seemed like that had leveled too many people. You know, when you read fourth grade and it says, oh, they need to achieve all these things, and then as a home educator, you're like, crumbs, there's no way my child is at the fourth grade level because I've been a terrible mother. Like, that's kind of the feeling you get when you read those, you know, scopes and sequences, especially with all that like academic language. So I started thinking, let's look at what's actually happening in the writing journey. Let's not just look at what they, quote, should be doing. Let's look at what they're actually doing. How does someone go from pre-writer to a fluent adult writer? And I just started paying attention. I started looking at what that process had been in my own life, what I was observing with my kids, what was happening in all these relationships I had cultivated online with families with children. And it like, boom, fell into place so easily because it's so obvious. It's what happened in speech. It's what happens in maturity. So this is not rocket science. Learning is developmental. It is tied to the person. Oh, thank you for coming, Kim. There will be a replay. You can see the rest. Thanks for coming. I see that you're going. It's tied to the natural development of a person. So in writing, we start with the jot it down stage, where self-expression is words and someone writes it down. The second one is partnership writing, where you partner with your kids. The third one is faltering ownership, where sometimes they're really into writing and they own it, and other times they hate it and they're not really ready to do it and they don't want to do it. The one after that I call transition to ownership. It's where they finally feel comfortable writing. And then the last is what we call eavesdropping on the great conversation, getting ready for college writing, becoming part of the community of writers. These are natural developments in the life of a writer. And all learning is like that. It is not scope and sequence. It is not about grade level. Okay? So you can learn more about that in the Writer's Jungle if you're interested. That's our main manual on the subject. We also have podcasts on the blog.bravewriter.com, that go through each of the stages of growth in conversation with my son, Noah. So those are really popular, and you could listen to those for free while you go running or whatever you do. All right. The next one is complex learning is enhanced by challenge and inhibited by threat. Do you see that? It's enhanced by challenge, inhibited by threat. What does that mean? What it means is you got to stop threatening your kids. It's okay to challenge them, to give them something hard to work on. It shouldn't be so hard that it, results in absolute abject sadness and tears, but something that's stimulating, something that helps them feel like they're engaged learners. That's absolutely appropriate. But what's not appropriate is a threat. For some reason, that shuts everything down. So how many of you have done the old, I need 3 sentences by noon or you can't have lunch, right? Or I'm leaving this room and you can't get up until, I think we've all done some version of that at some point in utter frustration. Just commit to not doing it anymore. Here's the thing. The learning's over. We always say in Brave Writer, when the crying comes, the writing is done. You can say when the crying comes, the learning is done. Okay? Don't push your children past the threshold of frustration. I was once guilty of that, says Sarah, and then I left the room and cried because I felt so badly. Listen, Sarah, if you only did it once, you're a quick learner. This is not an easy habit to get over for parents. A lot of parents have this as their go-to model, right? And we don't want that culture in our families. So, no threats if you're trying to encourage learning. And the last one is, each brain is uniquely organized. Each brain is uniquely organized. I love this. You know what it means? It means that how your child learns is not how you learned. And each child learns differently from another child. And it does seem like if you have 5 learners, you find that out. I have 5 kids, and each one had a slightly different learning style. Some had radically different learning styles, and none of them had my learning style. Not really. The combination of what makes me a learner is not present in any of my kids in the same way. So when we talk about the brain being uniquely organized, we're talking about tendencies and preferences, and that you can validate. If you see your child behaving in ways that don't make sense to you, for example, your child says, I want headphones while I'm working on math, and you think to yourself, I can't concentrate with headphones. I want you to just pause and consider that your child's brain is uniquely organized. Give them a chance. Find out. Instead of just shutting that thing down, give them the opportunity to find out if they can do it that way. I remember watching my daughter back when instant messaging was huge. She'd have 5 windows of conversations going on while doing homework simultaneously. And she was an A student. She did part-time enrollment at our local high school. And she could do that. She could do that. Incredible to me. The social aspect actually kept her on track. So we want to be open to the fact that some of our kids learn differently than we do. And of course they do. Their brain is uniquely and wonderfully organized. All right, let's see. I wanted to add, let's see here. Good. Okay, I think we're actually at the end, which is good because I don't want these to go on for an hour every time. People don't have that kind of time. First, I want to thank you for coming today and watching all of the replays. Let's see. We have a comment. I'm relaxed until I feel the pressure when annual testing comes from the school district. Yes. So maybe we can do a Periscope on testing at some point. But here's how I think about it. Testing in the school district, unless it's required in your state, is designed to measure rote learning. And even though the brain is willing to understand rote learning as one of its possible ways to learn, it isn't the only way. And in home education, we tend to maximize all the other ways. And as a result, rote learning doesn't always rank as highly in what our kids have learned. But I'm here to tell you, as an educator at the university level, I am very proud of homeschool students because by the time they get to college, they know how to think. They're not just about rote learning. They're about processing and examining and being critical thinkers. And that is far more useful to them long term. So keep at it. Don't get, intimidated by the state. I wanted to let you know then that you can go to bravewriter.com. If you have your computer open, you could even go now, and download a free writing product called Free Write Frenzy when you sign up for my email list. We send out daily writing tips that follow this kind of understanding about learning. Everything that I do comes from these kinds of principles, and I'm all about them. We're all about enhancing and enriching how the mind engages with material. And so our daily writing tip comes once a day in the morning. It's something you can use or not use. Some people keep a file on their computer and they pull them out when they need something new. Sarah says the tips are very helpful. Thank you. But what you also get is this 17-page PDF file for free that explains the philosophy of writing that will help your kids have breakthroughs. So if you're interested in that, go to my homepage and you can sign up for that right away and be on our emailing list. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you is that the Homeschool Alliance, where I do coaching, can be found here. And in the month of October, we're going to look at more brain research and apply these things directly to your kids and your families and help you create that enriched space so that learning is something that is happening in an appreciable way, a way that you know it is actually occurring. It's not just a theory or a wish or a hope, okay? So I hope you can take advantage of both of those. Next summer, we are going to have a Brave Writer Retreat in Cincinnati, and we will be posting information about that in October. I've been getting a lot of questions about it, but it's coming. We're almost ready to announce all the details. In the meantime, if you have any questions for me, you can always reach me, Julie@bravewriter.com, or you can text or call me at 513-307-1405. I very much enjoyed this today. Do we have any questions before we go? Thank you very much. Thank you, Lori. I hope you're there. It'd be great to see you at the retreat. Any questions before I go? Oh, Sarah's encouraged anew. Wonderful. I love seeing the hearts. Thank you so much for the hearts. Anyone else? Last minute chance to throw out a question. I know it takes a couple minutes for them to make it across the Twitterverse to me. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this broadcast. And of course, we will meet again on Friday. I haven't yet decided on what the topic will be, but I will be posting that on Facebook and on Twitter. You're welcome. I'm glad that you took inspiration from today's lecture. It's very much fun for me to get to do this with all of you. Okay, well, I think we will wind it up then. I don't see any new questions popping in. So thank you very much. Live honestly, write bravely. See you on Friday.